Everything here at the AAH is the way I've made it. And sometimes I've made things in a way that I don't want to see it that way forever, right? Maybe it's obstructions and obstacles that exist to the ease of getting from here to there, or to do certain things in my life. But when I put my time and energy and attention to what I want to experience, that's what happens. This property, it was just basically a product of erosion. Sagebrush and bunch grass were the warrior plants that were holding the landscape together and keeping any moisture to the mountain, preventing desertification. This was a desert steppe landscape that is now engineered in a way that it manages the elements. In a heavy spring runoff, that trench that we just walked through would be carrying about 10 inches of water. And you can't see it in this video, and I don't have an auxiliary light, but this is an aqueduct that delivers the water that used to just erode and wash away the road to hugelkultur terraces, where a lot of water, I haven't done the calculations yet, but I would say probably 60 to 80,000 gallons is capable of being stored on each terrace before it absorbs into the landscape, into the aquifer. And that's the thing, is we're having problems, right, with aquifers drying up, right? They're having to dig deeper wells. But what we haven't yet put into place is an engineered landscape that the beaver would have done naturally if they hadn't been turned into vests and hats, wallets, right? We've focused a lot in our life about what has been advertised to us, but not necessarily that which aligns with nature, right? When we align with nature, you know, nature lives in a way that it can't be advertised to live differently. You know, try to tax a squirrel, right? I mean, you know, he's gonna have none of that, and he'll bite you if you try to put him in a cage. Even if he was mostly peaceful before, if you try to put him in a cage, he's gonna bite you. A natural human being, a people, we shouldn't be paying on every level to exist. And if we invest our time and energy into things, it should be towards our well-being. Living sustainably in a way that we don't have to work every day to have shelter and healthy food and clean water, right? When we try to live in a city it's a very expensive endeavor, right? There's a lot of bills, and they all cost hours of our time being given to these things that are given to us as options in ways to live. These are options. These are things that have been advertised to us. But a lot of people are pretty depressed. You know, they're distracting themselves from life in a lot of different ways. And some are choosing to just leave prematurely, right? Because they don't know how to stop the pain. And that's where we have to just realize we have to embrace pain, but move forward towards creating the change that we want to see in the world. Right? When we're willing to push past pain and we're willing to sacrifice our comfort, it might be a rocky road, right? It might be a rocky road for a little while, but it really, really is worth it. It's worth it because there's always the next step. There's always the next step. You can always see where to go. The rattlesnakes out here, they warn you. You know, they say, hey, I'm right here. All right. And if you mess with them, they'll let you know that you shouldn't have messed with them. That's the way most animals are, right? Naturally, things don't want to be contained. Naturally, things are self-sufficient. Naturally, we would have healthy, happy, peaceful, and abundant people. Would have a really cool experience here on Earth. You know, most of the people I meet are pretty cool. Like 99% of them. You know, I mean, some are more interesting than others, right? But most folks are pretty cool. Why is it that governments are starting wars with other governments when the people of the country wouldn't go battle the people from another country without government telling them to? Right? Does that make sense? A public servant is supposed to only represent what the people they serve would desire. We desire freedom. We desire healthy food. We desire a justice system that suitably administers supervision to protect the people from dangerous people, from predators. We want a clean environment. I think most of us could do a little less stress, right? Less stress. You know that stress is the opposite of ease. And when you're in stress, you're in disease. dis-ease. And when the dis-ease of the mind becomes unbearable, people choose distractions. And when they choose distractions, sometimes there's health benefits or health side effects that are undesirable. Right? And so they develop a dis-ease of the body, typically like cancer or heart conditions, or anything of the body is typically an accumulated toxicity or a stress. So when we reduce our stress by recognizing what is within our control and when it's within our control, it's easier to manage life. I realize I can only control me, and I can only control me right now. And if I'm building that in a way that I want to live, that's what I wake up to. Eventually, when you've taken enough steps towards what you want to see, you get there. I mean, if you want to walk to the park, right? That there's a certain number of steps that it's going to take for you to get there. If you want to build the life that you want to build, truly think about it. What do I want my life to look like if I'm not happy with what it is right now? And how can I change it? How can I mean, I've lived in the war zone of Albuquerque, and now I live outside of Yakima. Actually outside of Sela, but in Yakima County. And now I feel like I'm in heaven, even though we have a really high crime statistic, and not many people are too excited to move to Yakima. But it's actually it's a cool community. I like most of the people. There's a lot going for a lot of areas. There's an abundance of resources available everywhere. A lot of them are being thrown into landfills, or they're being shipped across the ocean to be thrown into landfills, to pollute someone else. When we throw something away, where is away? Right? Is it just somebody else's problem? Because that's not being a good neighbor. Let's work in ways with synergy hubs that manage all the resources available in communities, right? Because most things aren't really trash. They're just broken, and broken things can be fixed, and they can be fixed in ways that they are even better than before, right? And there's a lot of energy that goes into creating something, and if then a lot of energy goes into getting rid of something by throwing it away into a landfill, that's a lot of energy that's been wasted. Anyway, I don't know. It was late at night, and this place has taught me a lot, and about happiness, like how I find content in my life, because like I've been depressed before, And then I realized it was because I wasn't creating things, I was just consuming things. And when I'm willing to be a creator in my experience, like go out and do the things that I want to see done, right? I mean, like, if I wanted to see this grass cut down to the ground, I could go grab a weed eater and I could cut all this grass down to the ground. And that's what it would look like, right? And it, just like a job, right? What does my job look like? I've had a job where I had to dress in a costume and show up when somebody else told me to show up and do the things that they tell me to do. That was an option. And then I've also had jobs where I have the freedom to basically do what I want to do. Because if you know what you like to do and you know of ways that you can do that to provide a service or, make money doing it, then you'll enjoy your employer a lot more when it's you. Shelter, right? If we talk about an apartment being $1,500 a month, well, how many hours do you have to work to pay for the apartment? A bird, they just spend a couple of days gathering up little sticks and stuff and they make a house. Squirrels, they spend a couple of days digging out a hole and they make a house. People spend 30 years paying somebody else to put together some sticks and nails and siding and windows and all these things built to a minimum standard that are pretty expensive to heat and cool and insure. Our transportation, these cars are getting very finicky. They're very uh, I don't know. I hear a lot of people just having a lot of problems with newer cars. There's a lot of things that aren't working right, and they just the 1970 Ford pickup though, or the 1956 tractor, it just keeps working. They just keep working. The ones with the computers, or the expensive batteries. All these things are time and energy that you have to spend to have. And if it's a benefit to your life, if it makes you happier, makes your life easier, these are things that should be invested into. There's ways that we can create homes, and there's ways that we can do our transportation, and there's ways that we can grow our food and collect water, manage water, that makes sense. Right? That makes sense. It's just different than how you've been advertised in a culture, broadcasted over television programming to the masses on repeat, right? So anyway, hit the comment section. What do you think about what I think? What do you think? It doesn't really matter to me unless you are thinking something better than I am, because then I'd like to hear it. And if I'm not aware of a perspective of something, it's nice to be able to see it from that perspective, so that way you can have a better idea on a whole topic, right? I mean, politically, I'm an anarchist. I believe that I own me and you own you. And if there's something that we would like to see done, collectively that would benefit us and others, then we should voluntarily support it if we think it's a good idea, right? If we think it's a good idea that we have roads that we can easily get from here to there, we would combine our efforts to create flat places to drive. But we can do that without force, fraud, and coercion of government. We can do that without mandatory forced taxation of individuals. We can do that without expensive middlemen. We can do that in ways that make sense. There's a lot of shit that just doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, just a few months ago, everybody was freaking out because of all the water. It's flooding. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. But there's solutions for that. And now they're freaking out because there's a drought. I'm like, yep, that sucks. But there's solutions for that. The features I've implemented here at Hawks Haven, they work to reduce fire, flood, erosion, drought, and famine. It holds on to the water where it falls. And it manages what would be running through or by or downhill. It manages it by spreading it out and allowing it time to soak in. And when it soaks in, it recharges the aquifer. And when we recharge the aquifer, springs start to flow again. And in valleys that have been shaped with permaculture, within 10 years, streams that haven't flowed for hundreds of years start to flow again. And normally just the pathways of erosion, the waterways, only flood in a storm. But when you can start holding the water to the land, it doesn't become surges of water. It becomes a trickle of water. It's manageable and doesn't carry the silt and organic material from the mountains into the lower areas and fill up the river basins. So there's a lot of benefits to this, and that's what I'm excited to share with people, is how we engineer our landscapes to make our lives better. That's our goal, right? Isn't it? Or are we just going to keep voting for some rich person, spending a bunch of money to campaign and not really solve any problems? It's exciting because the solutions are actually very simple. Very, very simple. It just takes our awareness and our energy going in a different direction to solve a lot of problems that we're facing in the world today. So let's join in and let's have a revolution.